and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the 2023 City of Gloucester Candidate Forum here for the at-large councilors. It's great to be back in Gloucester High School. I spent some of the best years of my life here before moving on to Rockport. I just came back over the border to have my shots and we're ready to go. I'd like to thank you to Gloucester High School, to the drama program, and to 1623 Studios for putting this together. And as I said last week at the mayoral debates, this is a critically important part of our democracy. And it's important to learn about the candidates and the issues, to become educated, and then to get out and vote. So thanks to all of you here this evening, and thanks to all of you watching on TV. I'm going to ask you, as I will do this, to silence your cell phones. And I'm going to explain the format. The candidates are seated as they are seated, not really in alphabetical order, but that's fine. We're going to do the order of sequences, starting from closest to me to furthest, and then we'll alternate. And then when it comes time for the closing statements, we'll go the other way. Each candidate will have up to 75 seconds to answer a question, and at my discretion, I will allow the candidate additional time just to finish their point. But if you're rambling a little bit, we're going to move it all along. There is a timekeeper down there. He will give 15-second warnings and stop signs with handheld signs. And each candidate will also be allocated 75 seconds for a closing statement. We're going to try to get 3, 4, maybe 5 questions in. The questions have been developed by the Greater Cape Ann Chamber's Government Affairs Council with input from the community and Gloucester High School students. So, here we go. Gentlemen, we are waiting in Virgilio's to grab something for lunch, and each one of you introduces yourself to a mythical me who just moved here from another community, and I want to know more about the elections, and so I say, tell me a little bit about yourselves and why you're running.
Why am I running? I'm running because I love this city. I was brought up in a home that said that you need to give back to your community, you need to be part of the community, and I've spent my life living in that philosophy. Gloucester has an awful lot going for it, but as is with any contemporary city, we have many challenges facing us, and I believe we need people who, like me, who will take care and look towards the future as well as the past to make correct decisions. And I'm a solutions-based person. I was taught in my household that if you weren't part of the solution, you were definitely part of the problem. Now, I think you should get the St. Joseph's with oil and seasoning. That's my favorite.
That's what I totally get.
And then take it down to the boulevard and enjoy the majesty that is our fair city. And that's about all I got for the Virgilio's conversation.
And thank you for treating. Okay, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Bob, for hosting this or moderating this. And thank you to the audience here and at home as well. This is an important election. If I run into you at Virgilio's, I've run into you 3 times, I think, Bob, in the last week. So I'd say, nice to see you again. I'd probably sing some of the Italian songs that are playing there. And then I would treat with a Gloucester gift certificate, which is a program I started with the Chamber of Commerce back in 2002. Which has contributed over $500,000 back to our local economy. So I'd be happy to use that to keep money local. I would say the reason why I'm running, Bob, is public services in my blood. If we did a 23andMe DNA test, you'd find I'm a quarter Greek, Italian, Irish, and English, but I'd be 100% public service. My mother was a paraprofessional. My dad went to school for education, but there wasn't positions open at the time. My grandfather was a policeman for 37 years. Some people may have known he retired as a chief of police. So I've kind of grown up around it. And I think that the key thing, a friend of mine, Peter Trigian, who's mayor of Peabody, once said to me that when you're on the city council, the 10 or 15 people who come to meetings matter, and you want to listen to them, but you also represent the other 29,000 people who don't make it to meetings because they're working a second or third job, they're taking care of elderly parents or kids, and you represent them too. So I would ask for your vote because I'd be able to represent you well, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jamie.
Hello, Bob. My name's Jamie O'Hara. I'm an at-large counselor in the city, have been for 4 terms or 8 years. I grew up in the city, lifelong Gloucester resident. I attended this school, Gloucester High School, and graduated from Gloucester High School. I've worked hard my entire life, worked to help people my entire life, long before making the decision to run for city council and be an official voice of the people. The city is a beautiful place. We've evolved from what I can remember as a child, the D-hide. Some of you here tonight, some of you at home, remember that beautiful odor? That was the smell of money. Is a wonderful, wonderful part of Gloucester, but we have changed. We've evolved to where we are today, and it's becoming more challenging for the residents of our city to exist. They struggle. They fight for everything that they have. We're fighting over every square foot of land right now. Developers are coming into our city, and people aren't overly pleased with it, but we have to work with the city and the people, obviously the developers, to hopefully come up with a system and a development that will work and will keep the people happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. My name is Jason Groh, and I would say that, like you visiting Gloucester, I came to Gloucester 23 years ago with my family, specifically to find a place to raise them and set up my own set of generational roots. I knew that if I wanted to be part of this community and I wanted to build something for my children, that I had to get involved with the way that it was shaping up and the decisions that were made. I view every decision that I make through the lens of what it's going to do to the Gloucester of my children. And to me, that's the most important thing I think about when thinking about how we look at the future of our city. Been very happy to live here. I would suggest that I've spent 6 years on the city council now, and look forward to another 2. My wife, Sarah, is heavily involved in activities in the city and Gloucester Education Foundation, the Open Door, and between the two of us, we have our eyes set on a lot of different things that are terrific in the city, and that's what I like to concentrate on. I would certainly make sure that you stop by Cafe Cecilia for a cappuccino.
Absolutely. Okay, Chris.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber, thank you to 1623 Studios, thank you to everyone here. My name is Chris Carranza, and I'm running for Councilor at Large. And I would definitely recommend the chicken St. Joseph, and I would replace the tomatoes with roasted red peppers. So that's my insider tip on that one.
I'm writing.
There you go. Okay. So you've probably seen my slogans and signs out there, and to remind you all, the S in Carranza stands for streets, schools, and seniors. But in this regard, answering your question more specifically, I was proud to help work alongside our DMO, Discover Gloucester. I served on that board as the mayoral appointee. And we have an embarrassment of riches in this city. We have so many cultural events right now. We have the Gloucester 400th going on, terrific things going on for that, festivities. But more importantly, we have a great community here. And I think that's why every single person up on this stage is willing to run. I think we all have a commitment to public service. I salute all the people that take out papers and run. It's not an easy thing to do. I was the person that was the interim CAO in between the former mayor and the current mayor. An adult has to be in the room to make sure we are fostering good conversation, good government, responsibility to our budget and to our bottom line. So I would ask that you take a look at our great city, make sure that you celebrate it appropriately and have some fun, but make sure you vote and invest in people that are going to celebrate the best version of ourselves. And I hope that you'll take a look at all of us tonight and think hard about that. Thank you.
Thank you all. And this evening, Val Gilman is not joining us because she tested positive for COVID, but she sent along a statement, and I will read part of it as her opening and the rest of it as her closing. So, pretend I'm Val here for the moment, and I will thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's Councilor at Large debate. I was truly looking forward to participating. For the past 8 years, I have served as our city's Ward 4 City Councilor. I am currently City Council President. I have also served on the Gloucester School Committee for 6 years, serving one term as chair. My background includes a 25-year career in HR management. My most recent position was serving as a VP and officer of a Fortune 500 software company. I have a BA in psychology from UMass Amherst and an MS in HR management at Lesley University. I have lived here for 54 years, first in Ward 1 and most recently in Ward 4 for the past 25 years. My husband and I have 2 wonderful children who were born and raised in Gloucester, Jared, age 23, and Casey, age 35. And you'll just have to wait for the rest later. We move on to the first question, and I will start with Jeff. And that first question, appropriately enough, comes from a Gloucester High senior, Aurelia Harrison, who is the editor of The Gillnetter. And she asks, how do you plan to address the concerns of young people who grew up here that worry they may not be able to afford to live here when they graduate?
Firstly, thank you to Aurelia Harrison for the question, and I know how important the Gillnetter is to the school. My son was one of the editors of the Cherry Street Journal, which is the O'Malley Middle School similar publication. And now he's in Gloucester High School too as a 9th grader. I think this is probably the existential, and I said it 2 years ago when we were here, the existential threat to what we know as Gloucester is the affordability of housing for people who live here. I would say to Aurelia, first and foremost, focus on your education, because a good education and potentially a college degree could lead to a job that can afford the kinds of homes in Gloucester that we have. But we have to work really hard as a community to attract the kind of businesses that can pay those salaries to afford the houses in Gloucester. So that's the other side of the coin that we don't look at. What are we doing to recruit business here? And what more can we be doing to do that? So that's one thing I would start with. The second thing is, I think we had a challenge with our zoning changes proposed last year, and none of the changes proposed were going to build deed-restricted or affordable housing. I think we need to work really hard on finding ways to build more deed-restricted affordable housing with local preference. And what that means is probably smaller homes, more cluster zone development, going higher in some places. I propose in the industrial park, we could go really high there and not block anybody's views to try to provide more housing for people who live in Gloucester. And that's what I want to commit to working towards. There is no easy answer to that, and anybody suggests that there is wouldn't be experienced enough to lead. Anyway, thank you for the question.
I would recommend to every student in Gloucester High School, or obviously reaching out to the kindergartners, to focus on their education. We as a city owe it to every student in the city and every parent of those students or guardians of those students to provide the finest education and to learn the basic A, B, and C's so that when they cross Newell Stadium, I've been sitting there and unfortunately I look and I sometimes cry inside. We've lost some wonderful teachers here at Gloucester High School for one reason or another. We need to provide, again, the finest education. The management of our schools needs to be top-notch, but our educational system can't be flawed. We need to be able to bring the students into the classrooms. Those students need to have a reason to show up to school. I know one student, unfortunately, who doesn't want to attend. The student's a very bright student, but for one reason or another, that student just doesn't have it in them for one reason, again, or another. And we as a city, I think, need to step up our game. We can't use excuses. Other cities and towns deal with what we're dealing with as a city. We need, again, to provide that education to those students to be able to further their education, whether to college, in the workplace, or in the armed forces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aurelia is asking probably the most important question we have to answer right now, and that is, how do we keep our children having the opportunity to stay here in Gloucester? Obviously, you know, a lot of kids are going to go off to school, they're going to start their lives, and they're going to explore the world as they should. But it is always my hope that if my daughters wanted to come home to Gloucester, that they would have a place. And increasingly, that is not the case. And it's not just our daughters and our sons that can't come back. It's seniors that can't get out of their own homes because they're too large. There's no place for them to go. So we've created this imbalance in the Brownian motion of housing, and so we don't have the opportunities that we should be providing for our young children, our kids, and our seniors. But we do absolutely need to approach housing affordability and affordable housing, and they're not exactly the same thing. I disagree. I think the amendments last year that didn't pass would have offered the opportunity for modest growth in various neighborhoods, and we should have taken the opportunity to do that. We have a big opportunity with the MBT TOD and the Comprehensive Planning Initiative to really begin to think about what kind of community it is that we really want for the next 20 years. And I hope that we choose properly and correctly, and we do it with the eye of having our kids have the opportunity to come home, because that's why we moved here in the first place.
Thank you. Chris?
I look around this room and I think about all the ways to answer this question. First and foremost, the Gillnetter is maybe the best publication in the city. So I appreciate the youthful talent there and how they report in a fair way, but get involved. And that's just it. It's about community, getting involved. When I think about the former school and how there was a lot of conversations about taking down that school, and instead there was lawsuits launched, I took a tour of that building. And I want the best for our students. I want the best for our seniors, but in this case, we're talking about students and our schools. And I think we deserve the best. I think we deserve the best education. I don't think you can replicate that on Zoom. It takes hard work to show up and get quality education done in quality buildings. And I'm very proud of that. I see the former chairman, Mr. Pope. I'm very proud that he was an adult in the room that signed off on the release of that building to be taken down so we can have a beautiful new building today. So I think about my own journey about affordability. My mother-in-law was kind enough, by right, she was able to convert her home on Centennial Ave right over here into a two-family, and that allowed me the privilege to get a new home down on Causeway behind Lobsterland, which is another two-family. That's the way that I'm trying to give back to my community. Somebody took care of me. It's my turn to take care of the next generation. So we have to make sure we're investing in leaders that actually care about passing that baton in a way that they're doing it by their actions and not with just lip service alone. So I want to fight for our students in our schools, and that's what a vote for Chris Carranza will mean.
Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, you know, certainly no softball pitch on this one. This is a, you know, it's not just affordable housing, as Jason was saying, it's also workforce housing. And that's one of the tougher nuts to crack, because it's at the vagaries of, you know, the developers to be able to have them build houses that are comparable in size, to be able to build economically so that people can actually afford to buy them. Unfortunately, the way the market works is that the bigger you build, the more profit you can make. And we've sort of gone, as a nation, we've gone away from protecting ourselves or protecting our communities. But we, you know, hopefully during the comprehensive plan, the citizens of Gloucester will do some soul searching and decide what kind of a community we want to be. Do we want to be just a bedroom community, or do we want to be a vibrant working community? Now, we can't rely on, you know, the Atlantic Ocean being our economic driver as we had for 400 years. We need to diversify, and we need to protect our resources in the harbor, to protect the fishing industry, but we also need to figure out what is our next economic engine that we need to bring in here so that we can have the jobs that are required, that will pay, so that people can afford to live here.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Jamie on this next question. And it doesn't shock anybody to know that we live in an increasingly divisive and polarizing time, often focusing on our differences and barriers instead of working to get initiatives through. How will you work together with your fellow city councilors to get stuff done? Please include specific examples, and if you wish, you may comment on the role of a councilor.
Thank you. Being a city councilor is the voice of the people. I got involved as a or made the decision to become a city councilor after working during the John Bell administration with Citizens for Public Safety, time when the mayor made the decision to close 2 or 3 of the fire stations in Gloucester. I learned that so many people, unfortunately, God gifted me with strong will. Some people can't take a stand. So many people during that era were crying for public safety. They wanted to move out of the city, take their children someplace where they could go to sleep at night, realizing that if something happened, that emergency services would show up. I took that from a public service, helping people as a citizen, to helping people as an elected official. I continue to stand up for the people. I will continue to stand up for the people. I'm not one, I'm very strong-willed. I'm quiet. My nature is very quiet, but I will stand up for the people of Gloucester, the citizens, the ones who need representation. That is who I am, and I will continue to do that if elected again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Jason.
We like to think that we're a little bit insulated from the national politics and the rancor that happens at that level, but it has introduced itself into the community, and it's unfortunate. Divisiveness and arguing and fighting waste really valuable time, and you know we have a big enough job as counselors to do without that. And I think one of the biggest issues I think I've seen in the last couple of years is the perpetuation of bad information, of false information, of ignoring facts and outright truth in the discussion. And as a consequence, you spend a lot of time repairing the damage that causes. There are counselors that work very well together and some that don't, frankly. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, our job is to do the people's business. And if we're not paying attention to the facts, listening to people and their concerns, and really getting to the nut of what is the problem, what are we trying to solve here? If we can find out what the problem is, what we're trying to solve, and what are the facts, then we can actually work on a solution. And I think that it's really important to look at who you elect, what they're willing to do in terms of finding out the information that we need to do to get the job done. Nobody wants to spend any more on an issue or a problem than absolutely necessary. Let's get the work done. Let's do it collaboratively. Let's do it with respect for the offices that we hold and the people that we work with. And that will actually get the solutions we need.
Echo Councilor Grow. It's about respect and gratitude and making sure that we've all talked about public service. You know, I'm very, very honored that my grandfather served in the Korean War as a Marine. There's a certain pride that I have that's instilled with me through service. And I was the first ever Director of Communications and Constituent Services for the city. I think most people in this audience and at home know that. I hope they do. And I believe that I have to lend my gift of gab on behalf of you. I've talked to about 2,600 people, and Councilor Worthy might be catching up to me. But I've heard from you, and I've gone out and talked to you. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I want to use them in that order. And making sure you have a voice for you is important, certainly. But as you just heard from Councilor Grow, making sure that you have a team of people that are willing to work together, not necessarily for a blank check on anybody. We're certainly a checks and balance body. But again, just look at some of the headlines that some of our counselors have been involved with. And that's a big reason why I'm running. I'm committed to good government. I'm committed to public service, not self-service. So when we're looking at who's putting their name forward, it's not about necessarily agendas. It's about how can we have professional-minded adults that want to get good government done on behalf of all of us, not just some of us. And that's what I'm committed to.
Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, we need, most of us agree, or should, not should, but most of us agree on what the major issues are, and we need to try to solve problems. And you can't do that if you're sniping at each other. It just is not, it's not conducive to any good governance. You also need not only respect for each other, but you also have to have respect for the process, and that there are certain rules that go along with that process that we've all signed up for. And that's very important in order to have a discussion, follow along, and to have orderly meetings, which is what we're elected to do. We're elected to govern for the citizens who elected us. And we're there to do, their will, absolutely, and we need to listen to them, but we also need to do what's best for the entire city. And that's really the most important thing, is to take into consideration not just the loudest voices, but all the voices that need to be heard, because that's what's needed most for the city. And that's not necessarily what I think, but it's what the people think. And I think we need much more discussion, and I would hope that there was more meetings of the neighborhoods that get together and have their own meetings together, and then come to their ward councilors and come to the councilors at large, invite them to come to these meetings so that we can hear what's going on in their neighborhood, so that we can look at that in the overall picture of what's best for this city.
Thank you. And finally, Jeff.
Thank you. I think part of this comes down to a mindset. I just want to make sure it's very clear to all of my colleagues and other candidates on this debate stage that I appreciate each and every one of you for running, for trying your best. No one here is evil. No one here is trying to hurt the city. No one here is trying to hurt one another. I think it's been very clear in the way I do my business is I look for the best in people. And I think we should be very grateful that we have a stage full of people, including Councilor Gilman, who's not on the stage, who really want to make Gloucester better. So I just want to make sure that that is made clear regularly. And I think that I've demonstrated the ability to work with other councilors. So back in 2016, when I wasn't on the council, I started a new council orientation program. I don't forget the charter. I still remember ordinances and zoning codes, and I know Robert's Rules of Order. And so we met each term. We had a council orientation that I led to help get them up to speed on the things that need to be done in order to conduct yourself as a professional. And then we started this, and I think it was Councilor O'Hara who put the order in, the beach traffic and parking committee that I served on. And we met with the ward councilor in Ward 1, Scott Memhard, and the ward councilor in Ward 5, Sean Nolan, both with Good Harbor Beach and Winger Chic Beach in their neighborhoods. And we put together the very successful beach reservation system program in 2017. So it took a little while to get it off the ground. I'm pleased to say that I worked well with others. This past year we had, I'm sorry, I can't see the front row, so it says stop.
It says
Can
stop.
Can I borrow time from the future just to finish that point?
You can finish briefly.
Okay, so we had gates that were falling on cars and on people at the train crossings, and it was an order I put forward, and I'm not bragging, I'm pleased to say I know the charter, I know how to do this. We put a resolution forward, and it got the MBTA Keolis here in Gloucester working to fix that, and we got a unanimous vote from my colleagues in the council, and yeah, there were some people who didn't like that it even came up, but we worked on it together, we got it done, and the gates have been working very successfully since then. So there's just a few examples of how we look for the best in people and find solutions.
Thank you. Okay, Jason, this one will start with you. With the lack of availability of affordable housing, please share your vision, including specific strategies to create affordable housing in Gloucester, and include in your answer your thoughts about the MBTA zoning mandate.
In 75 seconds.
In-
Okay.
That's right.
Very quickly. MBT TOD, let's start with that very quickly. That is a mandate from the city, from the state, that we create a zone that zones for capacity, not for production. And I know that people say, well, if you build it, they will come. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it's something that we have to do. I think I, on the council, am prepared to tackle that challenge along with the planning board and the mayor's office, and I know other councilors are. I don't think it's going to radically change the housing stock in the central district. I was very proud of the fact that we've worked very hard to tighten the loopholes on the inclusionary housing ordinance, which requires developers to include affordable units, deed restricted, in their projects on site, as opposed to shuffling them off either through a payment or through putting them in another location. So very proud of that fact. I'm very much looking forward to partnering with Harbor Light and Housing for Humanity and other organizations like this to create projects like the Action apartment complex down on Main Street. We have the opportunity, and Greg Verga has talked about this, I've talked about this, about using plots of city land and building fully affordable unit clusters and developments in appropriate places where they fit. And I think that we have a lot that we can do as a city. Now, a lot of it also we can't do. We can't require developers to build affordable housing. We just can't, other than the inclusionary parts. If Jeff's got another extra minute and a half, I'm going to take a couple seconds.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. But basically, there are things that we can do and that we should be doing more aggressively. And there are things that we can encourage, and there are things that we can use the stick occasionally and get developers to include houses and units in their developments, so that we keep a socioeconomic balance in the city, and that we don't just create little islands of extreme wealth and less wealth.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you. So the transit-orient development is what we're talking about with the TOD, the MBTA. So I know sometimes this stuff sounds confusing when we talk about chapters and 3As and stuff like that, and I think that's the obligation, frankly, of the city council, is to help explain what exactly is at stake, what exactly is that we can do to work together on this, and what is an option versus what is a law. So I want to be clear as possible. This is a law. This is something from the governor's office that we really don't necessarily have a lot of wiggle room in terms of compliance. So instead, you have to work with it, and understanding the fact that we could potentially lose other grants, which are going to be critical for our success going forward, because from the people that I'm talking to, they're worried about their bottom line. They're worried about affording to stay here. They're worried about our infrastructure, our roads. And so one of the ways to which you can add, as we call it in the business, the sweeteners when you're talking to developers, if you're on the mayor's side, is having them have incentives such that they're going to help repair some of the roads, repair some of the sewer systems, put it on the developers. As Councilor Groh just said, we can work with the right partners out there. North Shore CDC is also included in that list across the North Shore. So we have to work with the right developers that want to respect our heritage and our culture, and making sure that it fits in with the characteristics. But we have to be clear about what we can do and what we can't do. And when it comes to some of these state guidelines, it is pretty clear what we can't do. So I would rather focus on the ways that we can get better savings back from working with the developers, as opposed to trying to find ways that we can get into more lawsuits and mischief. Not my style, folks.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, since everybody else is starting off with the transit-orient development zone that's going to be around our train tracks, it is a law that is being, it's top-down. I'm pretty used to that, being on the school committee for 13 years. You want to talk about top-down laws, just go over to that side of the street. But it definitely has some issues, because it just exposes it all to market rate housing. It doesn't really address, other than they finally did put in inclusionary zoning when they rethought it before they put out the final guidelines. I don't know why that wasn't in it originally. And then they also put in the combo developments where you can have a business down on the first floor and then have housing above it. They made that being eligible also. Why that was overlooked in the beginning, I can't, these are smart people, why they missed these glaring omissions, I'm not sure. But We need to work on guardrails if this is going to be what we are mandated to do. And I think that the comprehensive plan will allow us the opportunity to find out what the citizens of Gloucester, what they think those guardrails should be. I think that needs to be a very, very big part of the discussion on how we can protect ourselves from the, it is not a build plan. It is just a certain amount of units that you have to have, not build. Just one more thing. We also need to beef up the Affordable Housing Trust so that the city can purchase and permit properties and then put them out to bid that can then go into deeded affordable housing that people can purchase and have their own home and have an investment in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a subject that we could all probably spend an hour each on and not be done and have answers, but I want to do my best I can in this short time. I think first of all, it does come back to having some sort of perspective and empathy. I mentioned my grandfather earlier who rose to the ranks, became chief of police, but he grew up on New Way Lane and he had dirt floors. He said burlap bags for windows. And he'd come home from school and he would not ask what's for dinner, but is there dinner? And I can't imagine, but I think everyone on the stage here has worked hard and will continue to work hard from an empathetic perspective to do the best we can to help people. So when I was in high school and National Honor Society, Rosemary Banks was our advisor, my biology teacher, and she took me, because I was the only one that volunteered, to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. We built a house there. And then I continued to volunteer just because I wanted to, and we built 2 in Lynn, and then 1 in Gloucester. It was raising a roof, went up a floor. So I think that, working with Habitat for Humanity gave me a good perspective. Our zoning has been designed to protect the environment and protect people's rights, which I respect and honor. I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we can find ways to build more smaller units on larger lots. Right? If you have 80,000 square feet, you buy that property and you end up building a big house to justify the expense, and then that big house has to sell for a lot of money. But is there a way we can look at smaller homes that don't take up as much space? I didn't get to the transit-oriented development, but I'm stopped. Maybe I can try to work that into another question.
Okay.
Thank
Jamie.
you. I think this is a question that everyone's concerned with, development in the city. Just a year ago, we had a water crisis. We had a fire on Poles Hill, and you combine that with a shortage. Mother Nature's been very dry. It's no secret. It's happening on the West Coast, happening in other parts of the world. The average person consumes 100 gallons or utilizes 100 gallons of water a day. Now, you look at a development, the Mass MBTA, DOD, putting out 2,270 dwelling units. You say the average home may have four people, 2 parents, 2 children, 100 gallons. That equates out to 340 million gallons of water annually. That also, people can just think of what 340 million gallons of water is. Everyone's seen a tanker truck of gasoline at one of the gas stations in Gloucester. They carry 10,000 gallons. So just envision, where are we going to produce 340 million gallons of water with a water shortage a year ago? Could that happen again? I think the realization is it could. So we have to be concerned with the basic necessities of life before we consider continuing to build out the city with large volumes of dwelling units. Thank you.
Well, why don't you include it in your closing? 'Cause we've got a lot to cover and not much time. And this one's going to start with Chris. So, the question is as follows. Gloucester's economy is reliant on traditional fishing and maritime economy, arts and culture, as well as a growing bio-life sciences economy. How can the city and you as city councilor support the balance of traditional industries in our city, as well as welcome and develop new businesses, and be as specific as you can.
The only thing constant in life is change, and either you can work with it or you can work against it. We have a responsibility, if I'm elected as one of your 4 at-large councilors, to make sure that we're listening to all voices about ways we can get there. You just talked a little bit about our fishing industry. My husband's family were strongly affected by that, and I think about those that were in a vulnerable place that didn't quite understand how to get into workforce training away from the fishing community. We have an obligation as your government leaders to do all that we can to make sure that everyone succeeds in this city. Rising tides lifts all ships. So it's not one industry versus another industry. It's about a mixed portfolio. So to that end, when I think about ways that we can empower our success, I'll go back to the fishermen for a moment. It's not that we're not fishing here, it's that what we do to fish has changed, and how we can collect almost like a farm-to-table model. You can see different vendors that are popping up now that are reimagining how we take advantage of the blue economy. I think about GMGI, which is taking people that otherwise were working at Dunkin' Donuts that are now working in labs all across New England with high-paying jobs. So we can embrace the very best features that we have as a city, but make sure we're making progress on it too. It's not an either-or statement. It's about all of us working together to activate our collective success. And if you think that for a second we can't do that, you shouldn't be talking to that person. Believe in people who believe in you.
All right, we will round the corner to Tony.
Okay, so, the traditional fishing industry, which is near and dear to my heart, is, unfortunately, is changed forever. We are never going to go back to, landing millions of pounds of fish a week like we did, when I was a little bit younger. We see what's happened on the waterfront. Those facilities are no longer there. We're not going to be able to recover a lot of those jobs. The workforces are gone. So we do need to diversify. But while diversifying, we also need to protect the fishing, because it still is a pretty significant part of our economy. So we need to make certain that the dockage, and that we also maintain certain services in this city that are required. But unfortunately, most of our harbor is owned by private property, by private owners, which is not under the city's control. The harbor plan, one of the things that the consultant said is, if you want to control it, you need to own it or go into partnership with it. Now, I don't think the city is in any position to be purchasing waterfront property, so that's sort of it's a reality that just can never exist. We need to figure out how to attract some businesses here where we're geographically perfectly set for the ocean, but we're not so well set for the mainstream of life that is required. And so we need to figure out how to get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the first thing, again, goes back to mindset. Business owners are people, and they're mostly Gloucester residents. And so I think we also have to have an empathy to how hard it is to run a business, and how hard it is to run a business in Gloucester, where your employees potentially, if you draw a circle around Gloucester, 2/3 of it is water. So it's a little harder to attract employees. It's harder to attract customers as well. I had the opportunity when I worked at the Chamber of Commerce to serve in the North of Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau for actually 4 years in Gloucester and 2 years in Salem. I served on the Downtown Development Commission and the Tourism Commission. I also served in Salem on the Enterprise Center's Board of Directors, and we looked at how do we incent small businesses to start locally. And I like to bring those skills back to Gloucester. Back to the City Council, I'm sorry. And when I worked at the Chamber of Commerce, we had a number of business owners who were artists, and we didn't have programs that really helped them. So if you look at the Articles of Incorporation of C-Arts, the Society for the Encouragement of the Arts, there are 2 names on it, Joanne Castano and Jeff Worthley, because I wanted to start something that really did something to help our artists, which make up a broad base of our employers and our residents in Gloucester. I think sometimes government needs to get out of the way. That's one piece. Some things that government has to do better is be fair. Everybody that comes for a permit needs to be treated equally. City staff needs to treat everybody equally. I think that's an important thing to set the right tone for a business environment, and we really need to work on economic development initiatives to draw businesses here that are going to sustain our residents going forward.
Thank you. Jamie?
As far as businesses in the city and bringing businesses, my concern is maintaining and keeping the businesses we have to start. We have to work with the state legislature, our state officials, to make sure our road system is adequate. Anyone who, and a lot of us do, travel out of town in the morning have to travel back. You hit wall-to-wall traffic from Route 62 heading south, going to Woburn, heading into Boston. The clover leaves of 128 and 93 are a nightmare. That those same roadways are holding up truck traffic. There's truck traffic that's going to Gorton's, going to other businesses in Gloucester. That all costs businesses money. Locally, just today, talking to one of the business owners about the new school and just dealing with the additional traffic, having proper stop signs, having everything in place that keeps businesses flowing. We have to be attentive to our existing businesses, to maintain them, keeping the cost of Gloucester services at a reasonable level where they can afford to continue to conduct business in Gloucester. I just think that we need to focus on maintaining our existing structure and then expand from there with our state legislature. Thank you.
So a lot of the things that we love about Gloucester that make Gloucester special are the same things that also discourage economic development. We're far away from Boston. We are at the end of the line in terms of the highway. We have a city that's very spread out over a lot of land area. So we have to work a little harder to try to encourage companies and businesses to settle here, because they've got to encourage their workforce, and we need workforce, obviously, for the jobs. We do that by encouraging housing that's affordable. We have to address the affordable housing issue, because if you can't have your employees living here, or at least living nearby, how are you going to attract them? It's much easier to have a job or a business in Woburn, where you have a great big circle of opportunity for people to live and to come from. So how do we get people to be here? Well, we do that by making the housing affordable. We have got to work on our infrastructure, and really we've been doing good work on that, but it's got to get even more. We have to have 21st century infrastructure, and we have to make sure that we continue to invest in our education, because people want to move to places where the schools are good, where their kids are going to get a good education, and where they're going to feel comfortable keeping their kids in the district. And that equation, that housing and infrastructure and education are what equals economic development, and that's what we need to focus on.
Okay. It is 11 of 8, so we are going to now move to the closing statements. And I will give you guys a few moments to collect your thoughts. And as you are collecting your thoughts, I will do Val Gilman's closing statement. So why have I, Val Gilman, decided to run for at-large councilor? I feel I am well positioned and prepared to legislate new ordinances by seeking best practices and working closely with our state and local officials. Our elected officials have some huge challenges in this term. Common concerns are seeking reasonable, affordable housing and workforce housing initiatives so that seniors, veterans, and young families can afford to live here. Engaging our taxpayers in the 2023 comprehensive plan to hear the voices of our residents seek solutions for aging infrastructure, private and public road maintenance, staying true to climate and environmental needs, protecting open space, seeking downtown parking solutions, and navigating zoning and ordinance solutions on ways we can make downtown businesses even more vibrant. I will hit the ground running on January 1st, 2024 as one of your 4 at-large councilors. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much, and thank you to Bob Visnick for running such a great debate. I did a little editorializing right there. Okay. Starting from Chris. we will
Okay.
go.
Well, Again, my name is Chris Carranza. I'm asking for one of your 4 votes. You've heard me talk about the schools, streets, and seniors. And it's because I've been out there door knocking, talking to all of you. I've done this for a long while now. I've served the pleasure of the previous mayor as Director of Communications and Constituent Services. I was the Assistant CAO, then I was the Interim CAO. I'm proud of the fact that I was on the Licensing Board, the Special Events Committee, and I wanted to make sure that I was giving back anything that I could back to our great city. I believe that our great days are ahead of us, and I think you should invest in leaders that think about the future in that way. It's not all doom and gloom. We have a lot of important stuff at hand, sure, yes. And there are very serious things, affordable housing, infrastructure, but we need to have adults in the room that are willing to have tough conversations in a way that celebrates the best of us. We have to stop the divisiveness. We have to stop hating each other. We have to build up our community again. And so when you look at the names on the ballot, if you're looking for some change, there's a new name on that ballot. His name is Chris Carranza. So I've been invested in good government across the city of Salem, the city of Haverhill, of course, the city of Gloucester. I've worked at the state, a very good relationship with our state delegation, but it's not about if I like this mayor or another mayoral candidate. It's about how we all respect and work together. I'm definitely interested in good government, and you should be interested in leaders that are interested in good government too. So, again, November 7th, Chris Carranza, I want to be one of your 4 votes. Thank you all, and thank you, Gloucester. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, good government. I mean, as I said earlier, we don't need to be wasting a lot of time on the bickering and the foolishness that we can find ourselves drowning into. As I said earlier, we moved here 23 years ago with the intention of establishing our home base. I grew up all over the country, moved every year as a kid. I never had any solidity in my life until I hit college, and I wanted something better for my kids. I wanted them to have a place that they could call home. So when I say that I look at every issue through the lens of what is this going to affect, how is it going to affect their future, how is it going to affect the Gloucester 20 years from now, I don't want my legacy to be that we missed opportunities that we had the chance and the ability to fix and to make better for the community. I work very hard to find out the information and the facts that are necessary to make good decisions. I often ask questions, tough questions, from people that think that I'm going to vote for their way automatically, but it's important to challenge assumptions and to make sure that you're really getting to the root of what is at the heart of the issue. And sometimes that makes things uncomfortable for people. But at the end of the day, our goal should always be to be doing the absolute best, not just for Gloucester today, but really for the world that our kids are going to inherit, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's paying attention to climate change, all these things. I mean, every one of us on this, well, maybe Jeff and Chris, they'll be a little longer than we are, but most of us are we got a good 20 years or so left here. And what we do in the next couple of years is going to have a profound impact on the next 20 years. And I don't intend to waste my time bickering over little things when we have such big problems to fix.
Thank you. I'm running again for another term to be, as I've mentioned earlier, voice of the people. So many, again, not to reiterate, so many people need someone to stand up for them at City Hall, in city government. Our city has been discovered. We clearly know that, and people need somebody at City Hall to stand up and recognize them, trying to get those people out and get them out of their shell to also participate in city government. As I said at Lanesville Community Center, I'll say it again tonight, if more people got involved in our city government, participated in city council meetings, I appreciate everyone who is here tonight and those of you who are watching from home, but I ask you to show up to City Hall. Our city would operate significantly different, whether it's at City Hall or in the school committee. This is your city. It's not my city, it's none of the other candidates or my fellow councilors. It's the city of Gloucester. And you need to fight for everything. There are people here live on private roads, so many of us do, water line issues. Just fixing a mere pothole has become a huge issue in the city council. We're fighting and I say that in a positive way, politics is a game, and we all know that. But it's a very costly game. We're dealing with real people's money. It's hard-earned money. We as a city council have to watch every penny that's spent in our city. Making a dollar is so difficult today. We have to watch where dollars go, and that's a difficult task. So I ask you if you'd like to have representation to consider me for one of your votes on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to Gloucester High School. Thank you to my colleagues on the stage today. I think everyone here we have good candidates, and it's hard to find 4 only that could represent you well. So I'm very blessed to be here and grateful. I think, like Chris, there's a lot more positive in Gloucester than there is negative. And if we focus on the positives, we're going to draw more of that. I believe in the power of manifestation. I think we bring more positive things by talking about and thinking about the positive things. There are negatives, and we need to work on those. But we do it in a way that's collaborative. And I think I've demonstrated for the last 2 years, in my 4 years of service, 20 years ago, that I'm very accessible, that I'm a good collaborator, I'm a good listener, and that I believe in the common good. And we all need to work together towards that common good. I think you may have seen a few campaign signs out around the city. I want to thank my 2 children, Jude and Lila. I took a little risk having them be my co-campaign managers, but they've done an excellent job in helping me stay focused on going door to door and listening to people and being very much a participant in the Gloucester community. My name is Jeff Worthley. I'm first on the ballot. I'm trying to work on a little saying here, vote for Worthley and then vote for 3. I don't know if that works, but you have 4 votes to give. I'd be happy to earn one of yours. I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony.
Yep, Tony Gross, and, I've lived here all of my life. And, I was raised in a family that taught you, as I mentioned earlier, that taught you that you had to give back in order to get. And that's instilled in me in everything I do. I think that, we talk about negatives. I don't see us having negatives. I see us having some big issues that we need to tackle. But this is a great city. Of all of us that are sitting up here, I'm the only councilor that's reorganized a city department, and we did it quite successfully with the Harbor Master Department. If anybody's done any work with them, either prior, post, and pre and post that reorganization, it's been quite a significant change. Also worked for years and got the river dredged. I'm results oriented. I don't like to sing my praises, but this is the time that we have to. I don't think that we should be. Politics is not a game. This is serious business. We should be serious about it for the people. We got building projects going on now, and always are going to have building projects coming up. I'm a licensed contractor. It's always a good thing to have a licensed contractor on the city council because we are overseeing the budget. I also have my wastewater operator's license, and we're going to invest an awful lot of money into that wastewater treatment plant across the river. And you need to have people there who understand what it takes to successfully do that and to make sure that we are not go down any rabbit holes, because that is a big rabbit hole that's over there right now that happened, unfortunately, long before a lot of people were around, because it happened in the early 70s. So I work for everyone, and I think that if this, for the city to work, I agree with what was said. We all need to get involved. You don't have to be sitting up here with us. There's lots of boards and commissions that require people that very important work gets done. But democracy is not a spectator sport. And I'd appreciate your vote. If you vote for me, it's a vote for Gloucester. Thank you.
And thank you to all the candidates. The citizens will have some tough choices to make. You all seem to be fine candidates, great people, and it was a pleasure to talk to you over the last hour. Thank you very much. 2023 Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce School Committee Forum. My name is Bob Visnick. I have traveled many miles from distant Rockport to moderate this debate, and it's great to be here with all of you. I'd like to thank Gloucester High School for giving us the auditorium for this evening. Thanks to the drama program for the great equipment, and thanks for 1623 Studios for broadcasting this event. This evening, we are going to go first from close to far, and then from far to close when it comes time for the closing statements. Each candidate will have, when we get to the questions, each candidate will have up to 60 seconds to answer the question. And at my discretion, I'll allow you a little bit more time to finish your thought. But I can be a toughie. There is a timekeeper, and he will give 30-second warnings, and then we'll give a stop sign, in which case, finish what you're saying and be done with it. We will allocate 60 seconds in a few moments for a brief opening, and then 60 seconds for a closing statement, and again, that will go in reverse order. The questions this evening have been developed by the Greater Cape Ann Chamber's Government Affairs Council with input from our community and with a question from the Gloucester High School students. And thank you all for being here and for giving up your time. Thank you for everybody out in the audience and for those out in TV land. This is an important process, and it's fun to be a part of it. There will be 6 candidates chosen, and we have one candidate this evening who cannot make it, and that is Richard John Roberts Jr. He sends his regrets. So, we're going to start with you, Bill, and here's the question for you. So, you and I happen to be at Good Harbor Beach getting ready to get some candy, and you tell me that you're running for a school committee, and I tell you that I've just moved to Gloucester, and I ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running, and you have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Bob. The first thing I'd do is probably ask if you have any sunblock, because I'm going to need that as I take my seat on the beach. But I would want to probably introduce myself. I was born and raised in Manchester by the Sea. I'm a graduate of the Manchester Public School System. My wife, Beth Ann, and I have been married for 30 years, and we have lived in the same Western Ave home that we purchased shortly after being married. We are the proud parents of 3 children, Marley, Jackson, and Ruby, all of whom are graduates of the Gloucester Public Schools. I've been involved in the industrial world for most of my working life, first as a laborer in the heat treat industry, followed by a long stint in a managerial role as an operations manager. For the past 10 years, I've been a business development manager for the manufacturing rep firm covering the New England states. I've been involved in various civic activities outside of my time on the school committee, where I sit on the building and finance, as well as the program subcommittees. Those activities include being president of Gloucester Little League for 8 years, which might be the toughest job in Gloucester.
Absolutely.
Director of Cape Ann Youth Basketball, and have coached various sports at the youth and high school levels. I enjoy very much spending time with my family and friends and being a person who's willing to serve others. I'm also an avid reader, very average golfer, and someone who loves to create a well-manicured lawn. So, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, Kathleen, my name is Bob, and I like long walks on the beach where I meet you and you tell me about yourself.
Well, first, you're probably going to want to meet my dog, because everybody wants to meet my dog when I'm on the beach, Morris. So I would tell you that I moved to Gloucester almost 30 years ago because my husband and I chose Gloucester to build our life. We both grew up in places. I grew up around Lake Champlain, and he grew up around New York City on the water. And we love sailing. So we moved here because we love the diversity of Gloucester, and we're just drawn to the beauty. We have a son who's a recent graduate of Gloucester High School. He went through the Gloucester schools. We both, my husband and I both benefited greatly from kind of progressing through our education and value public education tremendously, because without a solid foundation, no one has enough opportunities with which to make good choices and to have kind of a full life that people should have. I have a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and an MBA in Finance, and that background in finance, I think, brings a unique perspective to the Gloucester School Committee. Planning for the short term and long term is really what I feel any organization has to do. I also have volunteered for the Gloucester Education Foundation since my son was probably 3.5 years old. So I've been involved in kind of all the extra opportunities and innovative programs that Gloucester offers our kids, because it's really important that we have opportunities, not just really great educational foundations, but also all the arts and robotics and all the things that make education the reasons for kids to really get excited about learning. I currently am the chair of the Gloucester School Committee. I succeeded Jonathan Pope, who was our terrific chair for a long time, and he looks very relaxed out in the audience tonight. And I have served as chair of the Building and Finance Subcommittee for many years when I was first on, and chair of the Program Subcommittee. I'm on the School Building Committee for the new School East Veterans, and I was previously on the West Parish Building Committee because I had background in finance and strategic management and some kind of facilities management. So I would tell you that I'm really passionate about public education, and I'm passionate about having every child reach their potential and just really want to look forward to learning for their entire lives.
Thank you. And Melissa, I normally see you in court, but now I'm seeing you on the beach. So tell me a little bit about yourself and why you are running.
Good evening, and if I'm talking to you on the beach, it's probably to watch the beautiful sunrises that happen there every morning. It's a very common place for me to be in the summer and fall. My name is Melissa Texera Prince. I was born and raised in Gloucester, graduated from the Gloucester Public Schools in 1983. I am married to retired firefighter Jay Prince, and our blended family includes 2 beautiful daughters and my son Kevin. We are blessed to have 2 grandchildren, and one of my my granddaughter is now attending the Gloucester High School as a freshman, which is very exciting to me, but I look back and wonder where the years have gone, but here we are. My work experience is that I've been working for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at the Gloucester District Court for the past 30 years, where I am office manager in the Clerk Magistrate's office. My education includes a degree in paralegal studies. I have a degree in business management, and I attended law school, received my Juris Doctorate degree, and passed the Mass Bar in 2007. I am also chair of the Gloucester Licensing Board, where we issue licenses for alcohol and inns and hotels and entertainment, which is a fun volunteer position for me. I've had the opportunity to work with Chris Sicaranza, who was up here previously to us coming up, and there's a lot of fun in volunteering for the city, so if anyone has time, I'm just giving a plug to maybe reach out to one of those positions and volunteer and help out Gloucester. I've been on the school committee for 16 years. That's a long time, and it's given me a lot of experience. Here in Gloucester, I currently chair the Building and Finance Subcommittee, but I've also chaired the Personnel Subcommittee, where I was responsible for negotiating many contracts over the past years. In addition to Gloucester, I also sat on the North Shore Vocational School Committee, which then turned into the Essex Tech School Committee. I sat on that committee for 9 years and became chair for 2 years. Wonderful experience getting to know the value of vocational and technical education. I enjoyed building that new facility and bringing 2 schools together and having the opportunity to witness students firsthand getting a first-class education and opening that opportunity to Gloucester students. So it was a really good move for Gloucester to keep in that program. So many great opportunities coming out of that school, which is now having an impact on what we're doing in our schools, which is exciting. I am a strong advocate for children. In law school, my studies focused on juvenile law and family law. I learned at my young age, or the situation that I grew up in, that having the voice of others, being able to speak on your behalf, produces good results. I had the opportunity to sit in court with Judge Harrison, the late Judge Harrison, and for those of you who know him, know that children was his priority.
Thanks, Melissa. We're running a little long.
So I learned from him that I wanted to be a strong advocate and continue that work, and that's the type of work I do on the school committee. So thank you for listening. And
Thank you. Laura,
Are you running into me on the beach?
what's that?
Are you running into me on the beach?
I am. At sunrise,
I'm not there at sunrise. No. If you run into
sunset.
me, if you run into me on the beach, I look at you for 5 seconds and then I look for my children.
I don't
moved-
have them.
Sorry,
I don't have them.
I know. I'm Laura Wiesen. I moved here 12 years ago with my husband, and we then had 2 children who were both born here, who are both students at Beeman Memorial Elementary School. I'm originally from New Jersey, and before moving to Gloucester, I had a whole different life. I was a television news and documentary producer, which is great training for asking questions and doing research, and as Jason Gross said earlier, asking questions people don't often expect, and waiting for like real, genuine answers, and that's been very useful on the school committee. Currently, I'm the secretary of the school committee. I am the chair of what we call the Ad Hoc Communications Subcommittee, and I'm also the chair of the program subcommittee. And on programs, which is the subcommittee that deals quite a bit with policy, I was very proud last year to work with my team and with the administration on a new attendance policy, which I think will really encourage students to come and not penalize them when they don't, but figure out the reasons for them to come. Encourage them to come instead of penalizing them for not coming. My work on the school committee has been a little bit of baptism by fire. My first term was during the COVID pandemic, and in that same year we hired our new superintendent. And I'm very proud of the teamwork we've all had through 2 school committees that I've been on, in working together, listening to each other, disagreeing with respect, and coming to really good conclusions and the best for Gloucester students, which is my priority. I'm a deep, deep believer in public education and making sure that all students and all families have access to high-quality education, as we have here in Gloucester. And I am running for my 3rd term. Thank you.
Thank you. And I misspoke earlier. We have 2 candidates not here this evening. Keith Minio is also not here. We move on to Jeremy.
Hello, I'm Jeremy McKean, and I would encourage you not to jump off the bridge into the stream at Good Harbor. I might get caught in the riptide. But my name is Jeremy, and I am a 22-year teacher and parent. I have 3 kids in the Gloucester school system, 1 at Beeman, 1 at O'Malley, and 1 at the high school. And my wife and I moved here 15 years ago to raise our kids and to start a life. And I'm running because I love teaching, I love teachers, I love serving students and working in the community. And I'm running because I also love the city, and I want to serve as a part of this team, which will guide things. And I've also been teaching at a vocational school, so the vocational trades and the technical trades interest me in terms of developing them and working with the next generation in terms of not debating whether it's college or career, but college and career. And I've worked for the union at a city level and a state level. I've worked with several committees throughout the years, not only on curriculum, but on things around the school. I've been a coach, I've advised clubs, I've been a 504 coordinator, and I strongly believe, as they do, in public education and in serving the public and making sure that these kids are fed and taught and taken care of, and that also the school staff is taken care of from the top down.
Thank you. Okay, our first 2 questions this evening are from Gloucester High School students. And we will start with Kathleen on the first question. So, Gloucester Public School students are very diverse in their interests. How will you support additional funding for programs such as theater, band, arts, and other creative groups who feel like their programs are underfunded?
Well, the budget process is very complicated, but we do always consider where the needs are. I was on the committee when we actually used to have a part-time drama and theater teacher, and that person also did all the performances, and they did an amazing job, but they really had to struggle to have enough time to work with the kids. And also students that wanted more during the day. It was not an opportunity for them, so I was there when we've really pushed to have that position be brought into the budget on a full-time basis. We have also added music at the middle school on a full-time basis, where kids can actually choose to do band the entire school year, where previous to that they would have to rotate through different kind of specialists during a particular part of their schedule. So over time, we've added different things as we've seen the need, and there's been some flexibility in the budget and real pushing from hearing from parents about those particular requests. I think the arts and, so many of the other things like robotics and things that make Gloucester's education program very unique and really, quite honestly, in many ways better than a lot of our surrounding districts and other districts, keep us on the map and keep our kids engaged. And so I would support, any kind of new interest that they bring forth, and we all try to figure out what those trade-offs are when we finalize the budget.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. I'm a huge supporter of drama and the arts. When I got on the committee back in 2008, it was when the market crashed and our budget crashed, and we actually had to go back and take funding out of our budget due to 9C cuts from the state, and the music and the plays were probably one of the first things cut. And it was a very depressing time. The school committee worked for a few years not having those programs, but once the budget started developing in a more positive way, we started to bring the programs back little by little. So what I would do is strongly advocate, like we do every year during budget season. Our budget conversations start to develop in November, which is going to happen real soon for us for the next fiscal year. The budget process forces us to look at every line item and see what's important, and I can tell you that this is a priority not only for me, but it's been a priority for the committee as a whole while I've been on the committee, is to get these programs up. So building relationships with the mayor and having the mayor and then city council members understand the importance of these programs is something that is critical in budget development, and I am one who always reaches out to anyone that will listen to talk to me to give us money. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. Laura?
I think that the arts and theater and music in Gloucester schools, since my children have been in Gloucester schools, has been a real high point, a real shining point in Gloucester schools. As Melissa said, I see on the committee that all of us are always interested in finding whatever resources we can to support more and more funding for the arts. This room, in fact, there's going to be a study to improve the audio, to see how we could do that in a cost-effective way to allow for more performance and more theater in this room at a higher quality. Many people may not know that band in this district starts in 4th grade. 4th graders are able to go over to O'Malley after school and participate in band in 4th and 5th grade, and then into the middle school. So we have a very effective and I think productive partnership with Gloucester Education Foundation, and they have helped, in the past year, they have helped ensure that all of the elementary schools had school plays, which hadn't been the case in years past. As far as finding money in the budget, it's always a challenging moment, but Gloucester Schools is very creative. The administration is very creative at finding grant funding and looking for where we can add more and more to broaden the education our students are getting here in Gloucester Public Schools.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Music and arts have saved my life and have been guiding beacons in my life since I was very little, since I was baby Jesus at 9 months old. And I, in a former life, was a musician and an actor, and I've seen my kids on stage. My son plays in the band that Laura mentioned. And they've all done theater, and my 2 daughters dance and do theater. And so music and art should be a part from pre-K to college. And I've seen, just wonderful plays here on this stage and at Beaman and O'Malley. And so I would be the hugest advocate for music and the arts and what they bring our students, and also every aspect of theater needing funding, not just as an elective, but as a mainstay. And so when it comes to music and arts, the fact that they started 4th grade and pick an instrument and they stick with it is is just this beautiful thing. My son picked trombone, and I thought, who's going to stick with trombone from 4th grade on? And yet he's a sophomore and playing trombone at the football games, and it's wonderful. My middle child, she's going to be part of the play at O'Malley, and she's got a starring role. So these are things that as parents we take interest in, but as school committee and as teachers are paramount to their education.
Thank you. Okay. Bill.
Yes, the problem with going last is everything that you've wanted to say has probably already been said by those.
Don't you hate that?
So, coming up with something original might be a little difficult, but as someone who was always kind of on the athletic side of things, I never really had an appreciation of the arts. Even when my kids were in school, I didn't go to a lot of school plays, heard the docksiders once in a while, but I think the 2 years that I've spent on the school committee has given me much more appreciation, to the point where I'm just an absolute huge fan of the work we do in the arts and the music and the theater programs here at the high school and at the elementary schools. They do some great stuff. There's a lot of very dedicated people within our schools to those programs, and I just think they're absolutely critical to having a well-rounded student body, and they really represent the school well. I think of the docksiders and the work that they do, the music that they put on, and it's really a point of pride, I think, for the Gloucester Public Schools to see organizations out there in the public doing that type of work. I think of the Christmas concert I came to last year. I think the middle school played and then the high school played, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of talented young people in Gloucester, and obviously a supporter of that type of stuff, and will remain so throughout the next 2 years. So, thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, we are going to start with you for the second part of this Gloucester High School student question. Many students have expressed the tardiness policy, which unfairly punishes students who are late, and as a consequence have to miss a game or performance. How will you work with administration and students to address this concern?
Thank you. I feel like I might take a little bit of Laura's thunder here, because that's something she's worked very hard on, and we as a committee did. I would let the students know that we have a new policy that just came out of the school committee a few months back, where we looked at our attendance and knew that there was an issue with attendance and all that's going on in the world. Kids have stopped coming to school to some respect, and decided that we wanted to take a different path as opposed to punishing students that do not come to school. We flipped the conversation to be, what can we do to bring you to school? What can we do in school to interest each and every student so that they want to come to school? That conversation happened with the school committee through program subcommittee and some consultants that we brought in. And at first, I'll be honest, I was a little bit mesmerized of the idea of kids having an unlimited amount of school days off and not really being punished. But that's not how it turned out to be. We did change the rules, but now we talk to students, find out why they're not coming to school, and do everything possible to encourage them to come to school. So I'm sure Laura will tell you a little bit more about it because she worked on it firsthand. But it's probably one of the most impressive things the school committee has done in the past years, is wanting to engage with kids and get them to come to school, keep them in school with their interest. And that's something that I'm proud of, to be on the school committee when that happened, that change.
Thank you. Okay, Laura.
So, as I mentioned, and as Melissa mentioned, we do have a new attendance policy now, which is, it's really a sea change from what we had done in the past, which is meant to motivate and encourage kids to come to school, and take away barriers to coming to school. So, for instance, there used to be something here in the high school called attendance fail. If you missed a certain number of classes, you would automatically fail the class. And we had some really, really interesting data given to us from a group called Attendance Works that told us how ineffective that is, frankly, at encouraging kids to come. And the point is, as we often say at every meeting, our superintendent says every day matters. And so every single day matters. So we have worked really hard to come up with a new attendance policy. On the tardiness issue, which is what I think the question was, I know, and I've heard firsthand from some Gloucester High students about how that impacts sports in particular and missing games. And I believe that that's been changing as part of this new attendance policy, but that's an administrative, that's something the administration here, I think, was developing as part of this new attendance. We all have agreed that we want students to be encouraged to be here, and we understand, I know some students have told me when the bridge is up, or when, there are things happening at home that are unavoidable, it's hard to get here. So I would say I know that Principal Cook and all the administration is aware of that and is working in all the ways possible to break down the barriers to getting here and to coming to school on time.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Yes, as a former coach, I coached soccer for 16 years and loved it. And, tardiness was something that if a kid has an invested interest at the high school and middle school level, you squeeze that a little bit. And for the kids that aren't invested, they may not see why tardiness is such a big deal. It's different for younger kids at the elementary level because, if I'm running late and that reflects on the kid, that's not the kid's fault. But at a higher level, when these students need to know that in the real world, you only get so many chances. In school, you get unlimited chances. So at the high school, we have, you would have a detention, and so many detentions, you'd have suspension. I don't think that translates well for the younger set. And so, so I think to give the high school the idea of, look, in the workforce, this can't be a mainstay. Colleges have policies of missing so many classes, but I'm also against the idea of penalizing kids for so much of the tardies, and I think there should be more grace towards that the every day does matter, and they should take this seriously, but that there is a grace level for the younger kids. And as they get older, we put a little more pressure on it. And again, I'm also concerned about students who are not as invested, seeing that as a punishment rather than as something that's just part of daily life.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, the one thing that sticks out in my mind is someone that drove 3 kids across the bridge every day to Gloucester High School, is that the parents also have some skin in the game. It's important that parents recognize, hey, the school expects my kid to be there on time. And so I think we have to put a little bit of that on the parents. The data shows that if you miss 10% of the school year, then you're going to get behind. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. 18 days, if you miss 18 days, you're going to fall behind. It's going to be very difficult for you to catch up. So I think those are the 2 things that kind of stick out to me. 1, parents have to have some skin in the game. 2, as Jeremy said, kids need to be invested. Hey, if I know I got a football game or a soccer game or a school play after school and I need to be on time, well, then that's important that you recognize that. And that's just taking responsibility for yourself. And I think it's okay to promote that. I also think that we've developed some attendance teams where if it's a chronic issue or if it looks like it's something more than just a kid being late every day or a student being late every day, then maybe we try and engage the family on the importance of being in school. So all important stuff, and it's a legitimate question though, so appreciate it.
Okay. So I'm very familiar with the tardy policy because I've seen it firsthand, and it does have an impact on a student, and sometimes it's out of a student's control, and oftentimes it's not. And so I do think having our policies that reflect real life, that there's expectations and there are consequences, and if you are, I remember elementary school where they were trying to encourage parents to get the students to school on time, and they phrased it such as, imagine you are 6 or 7 years old and you walk into class and class has begun and all eyes turn on you. How do you think your child feels, right? So really kind of turning it around to parents so they understood the situation they might be putting their student in. That said, I do think, and I have advocated for some grace, some leniency, some listening to the reasons. I mean, we don't know what's going on in people's homes all the time, and we don't know, we all get, adults get a flat tire or things like that, and sometimes those things happen, and so a zero tolerance, I don't think, is the answer either. So I think as long as kids take it seriously and understand and really do their best to be there, but something happens out of their control, we should really provide those exceptions sometimes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the third question, we're going to start with Laura, and it is as follows. If elected or re-elected to the school committee, you will be faced with budgetary constraints. Do you agree with what has been done regarding school consolidation up to this point? And what are your views on the possible consolidation of Beaman and Plum Cove schools?
Thank you. So East Gloucester and the Veterans Memorial School were consolidated into one school this year. And given the state of the East Gloucester building, which was really not good, really sort of no longer sustainable, I think the decision to consolidate schools and to build one big, beautiful new building with $30 million of funding from the Massachusetts School Building Authority was a great one. I think that our students deserve high-quality facilities with access to technology and good ventilation systems and all the facilities that new schools can offer that schools built in the 40s just simply don't, as much as we love them. So I think that was a good decision. I think it's a beautiful school, and I think the team there is working to create a real community. That's a wonderful thing. I think we need to look. I'm a Beaman parent, and those schools, Beaman and Plum Cove, are aging quickly, and luckily they're still in decent shape, and our students can be educated well there. But these buildings have a timeline. They have a lifetime, and we couldn't build 5 brand new school buildings. So I think having built 2, it's our due diligence to look at what it will mean to the Beaman and Plum Cove communities to build a new building and to see how that would work from a demographic perspective, see how many students there would be, and to move forward with that research, seeing what we find and being open to the possibility of consolidating those schools.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Yes, one of my heroes, Henry David Thoreau, said, "Simplify, simplify." And I said, Henry, what about just one simplify? 2's overkill. But, so kids can learn in pods, and, learning can happen where I teach in Lynn. The high schools are overflowing, and they just keep adding pods and pods and pods. That shouldn't be the future that we're giving our children. And I don't have the budgetary insight for Beaman and Plum Cove, but if it makes the most sense, I would love a consolidation. East Veterans is amazing. I mean, I can't imagine a more beautiful building in Gloucester for our children, and consolidating made the most sense. And I live in East Gloucester, and EGS is right up the hill. And thinking about Fuller years ago and how it was making kids sick, and we need to take care of our children and work towards, if we have Plum Cove join Beaman, and in the future we start getting things in motion for a bigger elementary school or adding onto the building. If it makes sense and it's efficient, then that would be something I'd be interested in researching and studying, and so I look forward to that.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, if I could just play back Laura's answer, I'd probably do that. I think that I've done some study, and these buildings have a certain life expectancy. I think that East Gloucester and Veterans had outlived that life expectancy. I think it was the right thing to do, to build a new East Veteran School. I think eventually the same thing might happen with Beaman and Plum Cove, and I think it's worth supporting. I do think that the key piece is also the financial piece. You know, can you get money from the state? How much can you get from the state to support a new build? And I know that sometimes it might not be the most popular decision with a lot of people, but I think it's okay to have kids in beautiful new buildings with the latest technology, a healthy building, and to really help them get off to a good start, especially at the elementary school level. So I think it's going to happen. I think it's down the road, and if it makes financial sense when that time comes, then we'll definitely cross that bridge. So.
Thank you.
Okay,
Kathleen?
So in probably 5 or 6 years ago, we had a discussion about, well, I guess it was longer than that, because it was before we submitted the statement of interest for East Gloucester. We had a discussion that building 4 more schools after West Parish would take, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and we knew our schools would not last that long. The other piece is to have a school that is right-sized today. We could never have rebuilt East Gloucester and had circulation for vehicles and buses under today's standards. East Gloucester did not have certain rooms. You needed to add those rooms. They take up, square footage. So consolidating the school was not about like saving in our operational budget every year. It was about saving in facilities and building budgets, right? When you go out to the community, you want to go out to the community to the most efficient way of providing these lovely new appropriate learning environments for students. And so that's really the driver, I think, of the consolidation, in addition to having limited space when you're trying to rebuild. I also, feel strongly that teachers and people in general, if you're in an organization, do better when you have more colleagues to share ideas with and to share projects with and move things forward. And so our teachers and staff equally benefit from being in this lovely new building because they do not have a lot of the challenges that they had before. So, I can only imagine how much happier they are with bright light, clean things, bathrooms that are multiple bathrooms instead of just one. I mean, there's just very basic things that a new building, provides the right thing for.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. So do I believe in school consolidation? Yes, I do. But I can tell you that I didn't always take that position. I began to feel comfortable about school consolidation when I did my work at Essex Tech, because we took the North Shore Vocational and the Essex Aggie, which were two very, very prestigious schools in their own ways because of what they offered, and decided to bring them together. And that was a very difficult decision on both sides, being the agricultural side and the vocational side, that became this beautiful building. So going through that experience helped me understand the value and the need for consolidation. When I got on the school committee here, we were talking about the plan for effective learning communities and the plan to go forward to consolidate. And I hesitated because, like many in this community, I do like the idea of small schools and teachers knowing the students and having that camaraderie in a smaller version, but learned that you can have that same tone in a bigger school based on the way they're designed. Our schools are old. Plum Cove and Beaman are expired. I actually wanted to do Beaman before we consolidated East Vets, but Jonathan Pope, through his guidance, talked me through and decided to support the East Veterans being the next school. But Beaman has some tough issues. The DPW has done an excellent job in keeping it going, but the time is coming quickly where we're going to have to decide what we can do, and not only what we should do as far as consolidating or not, but what can this community afford and what would be the best outcome.
Thank you. Okay, the fourth question, starting with Jeremy. Support for educators. With increased pressures facing our educators, how will you, as a member of the school committee, support our educators? And how can we work towards a living wage for our educators?
Thank you. As an educator myself, I've taken note over the past 20-some years who supports educators and then who really supports educators. And I've been privileged to work with the union on a city level and a state level. I've seen years without a contract. I've seen, plenty of wonderful paraprofessionals in my classroom and inclusion teachers, and I've seen teachers taken care of. I think it's just the ongoing work of this committee to take care of educators as they have, to provide health care and benefits and a living wage for the teachers who have, they have an advocate in their union to argue that for them, but there's also so much that the school committee can do within the confines of a budget, and there's only so much that that the city can afford, and that's unfortunate for the system that sees that we need to respect not up-and-coming educators, but educators who've been looked over for a while. And so that's a new challenge that I think the school committee faces. And so, my just a flat answer would be that that everything we should be looking towards doing everything we can for educators all the time and school staff.
Okay. So, and by the way, this is the last question, so if you want to start to think about your closing statement after you've answered, you should do that.
All right. Well, I think it's an important question, and it's certainly an important question in Gloucester right now. I think the one thing that, when we use the word support, what exactly does that mean, to the teachers and to the people that pay for the teachers' salaries? I think you have to look at not only pay, but are we making the teachers feel valued? Does the school committee, does the administration, does citizens put a high value on the teaching profession, not only from a pay perspective, but do they make them feel valued? Do they offer the right professional development? Do they offer the things that teachers need to help them do their job effectively and feel good about coming to the Gloucester Public Schools every day? The one thing that's kind of tripped me up a little bit is the fact that, as Jeremy kind of alluded to, salaries, the pay portion of that is a part of a bigger pie that the school committee has to figure out with regards to the budget. And, I think it's important to the citizens of Gloucester that we try and be prudent and measured with where we are on that, and that we be good caretakers of the monies that we have to support our schools and our teachers. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo what Bill said. He said a lot of very important things there. I think one of the things that's been a real focus in many years has been professional development, because as different learning situations or challenges come up, or mental health challenges come up for our students, anxiety, there's just been many different things that have evolved over the years as to new challenges, and teachers need to be able to have those tools to cope with that. And do the best by our students. We've advocated for funding at the state level. The Student Opportunity Act brought more money into Gloucester because we have particular reasons to warrant more money. That's another way to, kind of try to ease the burden of the budget. We've also increased starting pay to attract teachers, to hopefully bring in, new teammates for our teachers, to be able to bring in new people that have recently graduated and got all the newest thinking on how you approach literacy and all that stuff. We do a lot of teachers teach the teacher, or I can't remember what the phrase is, but a lot of our teachers actually run some of our professional development. So when we hear about the ongoing plan for district improvement from the superintendent, that is our purview to review that and ask the questions of how our teachers being incorporated into that. And they have and I'm proud to say they have an extremely active role. Our teachers are brought in and they often lead the curriculum reviews. In fact, they do lead curriculum reviews, and they lead in many, many ways. So that is definitely a way of showing respect and appreciation for what they do, because we have some amazing teachers, and when they come before us, they are smiling and so proud of what they're doing for kids. So hopefully we are meeting on every level of pay and all those other ways that we show our appreciation and respect for what they do.
Living wage. That's a new term that we're hearing this year and causing a little bit of a ruckus in our community, and rightfully so. When I got on the committee years ago and we started our negotiation process, we took one or two groups at a time and tried to do the best we could for those groups in bringing up their salaries, knowing that they may not be as competitive to either surrounding districts, being Manchester or Rockport, which is tough to compete with, or our dark communities where we have similarities. And the paraprofessionals are one of the last groups. And here we are having this conversation at a time where our economy is struggling, inflation is high, and we're put in a position where we value our staff and excellent staff that we have, and we're put in a position where our budget is driving the conversation, not necessarily what we want the outcome to be. So we're doing our best with that, as you know. Like Kathy and Bill said, there's other ways to support teachers besides the professional development, which is key and which we've invested a lot of money in. Our student population, our English language learners are now above 10% of our population. Special ed population is 24% of the student population. We have a lot of students with social and emotional needs, so the investments that we've been making, which is a good portion of our budget, is the support for the teachers and the staff. The more support we have for students, the classroom runs in a better way with those supports. So we as a school committee have forced the salary increase versus the services, and that's an ongoing conversation which we're all committed to in trying to get the best for student outcomes and to show the staff that we appreciate them and are doing our best to give them not only financial support, but the support with support services as well.
Thank you. Laura?
So educators are the bedrock of what we do. Obviously, this is the business of education. It's not a business, but, and we have to find, I think all of my colleagues, now that I'm going last, there's a balance between financial support and also, respect and the ways that our teachers are leading our, as I think Kathy mentioned, the curriculum development. I think that one of the things that has been touched upon here is that teachers and educators in general, which are more than teachers in our schools, fill so many roles. And so as we develop more professional development, and as we continue to support them through developing new curriculum, through them trying out and bringing to the administration what they want to be teaching, the ways that they think they can reach our students more effectively. Those, to me, are also kinds of very integral support that brings our teachers and our students and teaching and learning together to improve all. Supporting our teachers financially is something we work very hard on every year, and we balance that with the needs of the taxpayers and the people who are paying for our budgets, and for all the not new, but the increased need for social emotional supports and other parts of our budget that also require substantial investment, financially investment that we have to give every year. So I think that this team and this administration has been hugely supportive and respectful and appreciative of our amazing staff and what they've been through in these past years. And I hope that we just continue to work together with our teachers, with our educators, with our paraprofessionals to do the best we can for them and for all Gloucester Public School students.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the question portion of this evening, and so time to hear from you and tell our vast studio audience, as well as those people in cable TV land and the voters, why they should vote for you for school committee. Jeremy.
Great, thank you, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and to Bob and to 1623 and everyone in the audience who's been here since 7. It's been an honor and pleasure. As a teacher and parent, I'm asking for your vote because I'm willing to put in the work and I'm willing to learn and study and be part of a team that I highly respect and have studied since I've been interested in possibly running for school committee. And it's you know, to bring my talents to a group and to say, look, I want to serve students, I want to serve the teachers, I want to serve Gloucester. You know, Gloucester's been wonderful to my family. Gloucester is, you know, I was not raised in Gloucester, but my children were, and they're all taking part in a wonderful educational system that I want to make sure is not only the best for them, but for their classmates and for their teachers and the school staff, everybody from the top down. And so, so I'm asking for your vote because I know what it's like inside education in terms of being in the classroom. I know what it's like. I've seen, you know, I've been through several superintendents and principals and administrators, and I've seen teachers that have stayed the course, and I know what it's like to have to provide for students. And then as a parent, I know what it's like from the inside of the house and apartment where, you know, students deal with things like being tardy and not having the right snack and all of those things, from small to important things like music and arts and AP classes and sports. So, so I'm asking for your vote, and I'm willing to do the work, and I really want a chance to serve Gloucester, a place that we love as a family.
Thank you. Laura.
So again, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and to 1623 and to the high school, and to everyone who's stayed the course tonight here. I am asking for your vote because I care so very much about our schools. I have 2 children in our schools now, in elementary now. I will have a middle schooler next year. And I believe that offering a high-quality, supportive environment and place to learn is about the most important thing you can give to any child and any young adult. And I believe in public education as the best way to do that, and the best way to sort of create new citizens and create new adults who are doing everything from electronics to research to biotech. I volunteer regularly in the schools as a parent, and I see the incredible work that happens every day from teachers, from paras, from adjustment counselors, and I feel that I've learned so much in my first 2 terms, my first 4 years on the committee, that I have even more to give now, as far as just understanding how we budget and how our policies work and creating new policies that can help improve. This year we're going to be we're going to be struggling with the new social media policy and electronic device policy, another hugely significant policy that will really make a difference in how we operate as a school system and how our students learn. So I ask for your vote because I support our schools and I support our students and I support our faculty and our staff and I support my teammates, and I'm a good team player, and I really enjoy working with them to make the best decisions for Gloucester schools. Thank you.
Thank you for all that are here and watching at home, and for having this focus on us tonight and being able to convince you to vote for us. 16 years I've been on the committee, and I have loved and enjoyed every minute of it. Even when I don't agree with those in the community, I learn from conversations that are tough and that may not be the path that I was on. So my work is not done here. I want to advocate for children, your children, my children. I believe that education is the foundation of community development. We have an obligation to provide each and every student that walks through our doors every opportunity that they need or that they want, so that when they walk out the door as an adult, they are productive citizens and hopefully can find a home and stay in Gloucester and help continue all the good that we have in our community. I take my role as being a voice of families very seriously, but also balance that with taxpayer concerns. So every vote or every conversation that I have, I try to bring the passion that I have of the students and their needs versus the concerns of the community when they say that the schools aren't doing enough. But what I've learned and what I want to continue to say is the schools are doing a lot of good work. And for some reason, that messaging doesn't always get out to the community, or it gets challenged in a way that the facts become distorted. Our schools are doing excellent. We can improve our scores, yes, but the schools, the staff that we have, the leadership that we have, the programs that we are infusing into our schools now are wonderful. And I like and want to continue to be part of those conversations. We've been on the committee for a while. Jeremy will be welcoming us soon. But we stay here because we like what we do. My granddaughter's in high school. I have a vested interest. But even if she wasn't here, I would still want to continue to do this work because I believe in the value of advocating for students and making sure that they have every opportunity possible to be who they want to be. So I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I too have been on the committee for a long time, 14 years. I, was passionate when I started running for office, and nothing has replaced that passion. I always say when talking about new programs or some of my volunteer work with the Gloucester Education Foundation, there is nothing like that aha moment for students that, maybe they try singing for the first time, or maybe they do an experiment that, they just never really thought, or they do the school play. I mean, talking about shy kids, and then your whole class does a school play, and everybody is a team and they do it. Those are the moments that make a child really enjoy and have their own self-discovery. That passion and those experiences make them be braver the next time. I just feel that our schools are fabulous schools. I do know that we always will have things to improve. No organization ever has nothing to improve. You always need to be evolving and looking for better ways of doing it. And we continue to do that. Our current superintendent, Ben Lummis, is, the most compassionate, phenomenal leader. He is a true educator to his very core. And I am honored to both work on a committee that works really well and respectfully. There are no fireworks at our school committee meetings between us. We have very good discussions, and I think we learn from each other, and we learn from the perspectives we bring, and we really do, I think, produce better results because of that. We listen to each other and we listen to the community. So I would be honored to serve another 2 years. I would be honored to have your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
We've had some robust discussions, maybe. That's a different thing. First off, I want to say thank you to the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring tonight's debate. I also want to commend my fellow candidates for their measured and thoughtful answers to tonight's questions and their commitment to public education here in our city. Doesn't surprise me at all. I've been in, literally 2 years' worth of meetings with 3 out of 4 of the people to my right, and they're all very measured, thoughtful, people that really care about public education, and it's been a pleasure for me to serve with them. I've only been on the committee for 2 years, and it's been some of the most rewarding work that I've ever done. It's not that easy. I thought, I'll get on the school committee and, it won't be too bad. I'll be able to figure it out. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. You got to grind it out, and you don't always see the results right away. But what you do see is a group of people that are trying to lead a district in the right direction. I don't want to heap too much praise on Superintendent Lummis, but I would certainly agree with Kathy in the fact that he's got a short-term vision and a long-term vision. And I just have the utmost respect for him and the work that he's doing in the schools here. As I mentioned, there's a steep learning curve with regards to the mechanics of how the school committee operates, and I feel like I've done a respectable job of learning of diving in on that and asking pragmatic questions. I think that's half the job, is asking the right questions about, you know, what's before you. And I try to bring some solutions to the table as a sitting member on both the Building and Finance Committee and the Programs Committee. I've been accused of being the largest, literally the largest cheerleader for the Gloucester Public Schools, and I believe wholeheartedly in the Gloucester Public Schools. I believe in both the short and long-term vision as we continue to build a high-quality district with the bar set high for all of us, not just the students, but the people that are on the school committee, the administrators, the teachers. Let's have a high bar. Let's not be afraid to say, hey, we can get there. I also believe our schools are filled with terrific educators, administrators, and support personnel that make the Gloucester Public Schools a place where students can feel safe, valued, and allowed the opportunity to become lifelong learners. I think that's really important, and I think it's important that when the students graduate from that field out there, that they know that we've given it our best effort and they can get to where they want to go, having graduated from the Gloucester Public Schools. Thank you, and I'd certainly appreciate your vote on November 7th.
Wow. Well, thanks to all of you. This was, I think, a wonderful discussion. It's great to hear your different points of view, and I thank you. And this concludes our evening. Thanks to all of you out there, and see you all at the polls on November 7th.